it would have ripped my locked door from my truck, extracted me from my vehicle, and there wouldn't have been a damn thing I could have done about it.
This thing, I got to notice in its eyes. Its eyes was real evil, real sinister looking. You know, the look it was giving me.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Deal.
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
Welcome to Bigfoot Hotspot Radio, Sasquatch Chronicles. I'm your host, Wes, along with my brother Woody, and researcher, author, and friend, William Jevning. Let's start the show. In 1975, in Spotsville, Kentucky, the Nunley family home was terrorized by a mysterious 8-foot-tall creature.
Over 35 years ago, and I remember like it was yesterday. What I remember most was the fear that we all felt when these things came around, and it was the first time that I'd ever seen my dad scared of anything.
I heard a bunch of limbs breaking, coming through the woods, like something coming through the woods, some large coming through the woods. And all of a sudden everything got real quiet, and I looked over to the edge of the woods, and he was standing right in a little gully, right outside of the woods, just standing there watching us. I couldn't even speak, I was so scared.
I knew they were there. I didn't know what they were, but I knew they were not figments of our imagination because it killed all our animals. This place is probably the number one spot where these creatures like to hang out for whatever reason.
And there was this thing standing right directly under that light. What that thing is, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, it's eerie. I don't care what you believe. My eyes seen it. And I'm not the only one that's seen it, and I don't care whether you believe me or not. I know it's true. So help me God, that is true.
After the creature killed the family's pets and livestock, it seemed to be lured in while the children were playing. The family was terrified for their lives.
You better believe it.
The family decided to take matters into their own hands. 4 armed men climbed to the roof of the family's home and waited. The creature was seen exiting the barn. This is their story. is part 1 of 2 of the Spottsville Monster. Tonight on the show, we'll be speaking with Rosalie, and Miss Nunley is actually the patriarch of the family, and she's going to be sharing some of her experiences. In 2 weeks, we'll be speaking with her son, Bart, who will also be sharing his experiences and his encounters around the property. But tonight, I want to welcome Rosalie to the show.
Okay, Rosalie, what I usually like to do, and I've interviewed literally thousands of people over the last 42 years, so I've done this a fair bit. I've seen Sasquatches myself on a couple of occasions. So, in fact, when I was 16, I ran into 2 of them at 15 feet. Let me ask you this. Usually what I like to do before we start into an account is to find out what people knew about the subject prior to that experience the first time. So if you could tell us maybe what you knew about the subject.
Well, I knew nothing about the Bigfoot. I knew not a thing, because I'd never seen pictures of one or never seen one or didn't know what one looked like. But there was this guy. We had a lot of woods down behind our house, and he always trapped and hunted down there. And he knocked on the door one morning. I was getting the kids ready for school. And he said, "Did y'all hear anything last night?" I said, "Well, no." He said, "Well, he was sitting down there under a tree waiting for a squirrel." And said he seen this big thing run between them trees and took off like a jet. And I said, "No, I haven't seen anything." Well, that got me wondering. Because he was an honest, good, truthful man. He was a fireman here in Henderson at one time. And anyway, I hadn't heard anything till one day me and my husband was out setting tomato plants in the garden. And there wasn't no cows or any pigs or anything like that within miles of our house. And down in them woods, you could hear them big limbs a-snapping. I said, "Did you hear that?" He said, "Hell yes, and let's get in the house." So we went in the house, and the next encounter I had with him, I don't know whether it was it or what it was, but it woke me up screaming. It sounded just like an elephant screamed out. And then the next encounter I had with him, like I told him, he was underneath this dusk to dawn light. Told Jackie, my daughter-in-law, to go check on the kids. They had this trailer right beside the house, and me and her was sitting over there playing cards. And the men, I don't even know where they is at. But anyway, I said, "Jackie, go over there and check on those babies," because it was kind of getting late. And I stepped out on the front porch, and we had this dusk to dawn light. Well, probably a half a block from the house. And I looked over there, and there stood that thing right under that dusk to dawn light. And I screamed for Jackie to get them kids over there. Oh, Lord. My heart come up in my mouth, went to my feet. It went all over me.
Can you describe
so we shut
what you
the doors and locked it, and we had people down there shooting at it and everything else, and they found a footprint right out in where the kids were standing there on the road waiting for the school bus one morning, and they seen it run across the field. And we had this guy that I was talking about come down there, and he took a footprint of it. And it was this old barn out there, and it was raining one day, and this guy, I'll call him Roy because he don't want to be identified. But anyway, Roy had been down through there hunting, and it started raining. And he went into this old barn, and he said that thing was in there, and said he turned around and said he had eyes looked like fire. And he turned around and went out the end of the barn, and it had to be muddy, but there wasn't a footprint to be found nowhere. It's weird, but anyway, we nailed up all of our windows. And I told my husband, I said, we're getting out here tomorrow and finding us a house. I am moving. I tell you, it's scary.
Can you describe to us what you saw?
Do what, honey?
Can you describe what you saw?
Well, it was this. He was at least 8 foot tall, and he had hair all over him, just except his face. I could see his face was shining, so it looked kind of like leather. And his hands hung way down below his knees. And he just stood there. And then that time I had the kids out in the yard playing, and I was cleaning house. And my oldest son, I told him, I said, Dean, I said, go out there and check on those babies because they were only a couple of years old. And he come running back in there. He said, Mama said that thing's standing out there with Uncle Robert's truck. He had an old grain truck sitting out there, and you know how high the sides are on them. He said that thing's head was above that thing. He had the kids in one hand, and he was, well, I had to take him to the doctor. I mean, he couldn't, he's so upset he couldn't eat or nothing. And I had to get them kids out of there. But I tell you, and this guy that I know that I've been talking about, Bob, he said on this tape that I've got, he said he's seen them as late as in the late 80s. So they're still down there.
When it was underneath the light and you had seen it that one time, did you feel like your life was in danger?
Yes, I most certainly did. Because I'd never seen one of them things before, and I didn't know what it was. So we called the state police down there, okay? Well, they said it was a bear. I said, ain't no damn bear gonna run that tall, at least 8 foot tall, run on his hind legs that fast. Well, you know, if it's a bear and it starts in the house and you shoot it, it's against the law. I said, I'm gonna tell you something, man. You let whatever it is start in this back door, and I will shoot it. I don't give a damn what it is. Anyway, well, you know it's against the law to kill a bear. I said, well, I guess it's okay for him to kill my kids then.
How long did it come around the property, Rosalie? How long did all of this take place?
Oh, God, I don't know, honey. It's been so many years ago. Well, this Roy, he come down through there several times looking for tracks and stuff, and then they seen it one time, and we had, several guys up on top of the house with guns, and we seen it run right down the side of an old barn that was there, and they was all shooting it. Some of them had to hit it. You can't kill them. You cannot kill them. And he jumped across this little fence like it wasn't even nothing.
I was reading about your story, and I saw that some of your children had initially found dead dogs out in you guys' cornfields. They kept finding dead animals out there.
Well, there was a pig. Like I said, there wasn't no animals around there nowhere. And we came home from town one day, and there was a pig laying over there in the side of the road, and all of his entrails was gone and his eyeballs. And we did have a goat, a pet goat, tied up to the tree right there practically by the back door. Well, it disappeared. And it was on a chain. We had some dogs, and boy, when that thing would get around, they'd get up underneath the house and just have a fit.
And do you remember the previous renter of your property mentioning to you guys that he had to actually shoot out the back door because he saw a hairy feller standing there looking at him?
Well, when we moved in this house, Buzzy White lived there. And the back screen door that led out from the kitchen, I noticed it looked full of holes, you know, like a BB holes or something. And I thought, what in the world happened? But anyway, a little later on, he said he heard that thing out there, and his dogs run under the porch and having a fit. Said he heard that thing out there, and he shot through it, through the door. I said, oh, my God, why didn't you tell me that before I moved in here?
Yeah, that would have been nice to know.
Yeah, because that'd been an empty house, I'll tell you that.
What made you feel like, I know I wanted to go back when you said you felt threatened by it. Did it have a certain look to it where you felt it was dangerous, or was it just the type of creature and the size it was?
Well, it was the type of creature because I haven't never seen one, and like I said, I was so scared. I didn't see the look on his face. I just hollered for Jackie to get them babies over at the house.
Do you know if anyone else in the area reported animals missing? Dogs and farm animals, things like that?
No, because everybody was scared to say anything. Because the cops, this Bob I was telling you about, the police threatened to sue him if he kept saying that he seen that thing. They made him shut up.
That's interesting. If it was a bear, you wouldn't think they would make somebody be quiet about, a bear in the area doing something.
Yeah, well, they said, well, we seen a bear up there on the golf course. Well, hell, that was 10 miles from the house, but it wasn't no bear. It wasn't no bear. They was just saying that to keep people from getting scared.
Sure.
Do you remember your husband keeping some kerosene or lighter fluid in the house?
Oh, no, honey,
they got inside.
Now he might have done that, yes, because he said he'd rather us all burn up than to have that thing get us.
Because he felt like it wanted one of the children?
Well, like I said, it was standing up there watching those two babies. But, the funny thing is, I've never heard of them getting a human. So, it's a $64,000 question. I wish somebody could kill one of them and do an autopsy on it. I'd like to know what they are. Because, 5 or 6 people with shotguns and everything shooting at it, it's bound to have got hit. But it jumped that fence and went on just like nothing flat. So I don't think you can kill them.
Well, let me ask you this, Miss Rosalie. Why did everyone get up on the roof with guns ready and pop off shots?
Shoot at that thing because it was close to the house. The barn, I would say, oh, God, I'm not very good at judging distance. This old barn was probably a block away from the house, and it was never used for nothing. And another thing I wanted to tell you, this Roy that I was telling you about, he was always looking for it. And he run across this old barn, and corn crib's what it was, and it hadn't been used for probably 60, 70 years. And he found some hair. Well, he took the hair and put it in his pocket and took it up there, and they sent it off, and they said they had never seen any hair like that anywhere. And the plaster cast he took of the footprint of the thing right out in front of my house, when he got it back, it was broke all to pieces. It's like they didn't want nobody to know what it was. But I know we had a little pony for my littlest child, and it killed that.
How did it kill the pony?
Eat its insides out. Seemed like that's what they wanted, the insides and the eyeballs.
The police, and obviously you kind of already brought this up, that they were threatening to sue, but they would not respond to any calls from your house at one point. They refused to come out.
That's exactly right. They wouldn't even come out there and look. Said we was crazy. Thinking back, I could have sued them sheriff and everything, because I'm telling you what's the truth. Our lives was in danger, and they wouldn't even come out there. They said, oh, it's just a bear. But hell, a bear can kill you the same as anything else.
Right. They should have done something about a bear if they thought that's what it was.
They're scared, that's what it was. Because we got a bunch of cowards here for cops.
I'm with you
that's
on
the
that.
truth. This is the ass end of nowhere. I know you're going to have to knock some of this off, but it is ass end of nowhere.
Yeah.
I hate this place.
I want to ask you a quick question, Rosalie, and then I'll pass it off to Will. I'm trying to get to the mindset of, and I completely understand, of wanting to pop off shots at this thing. Was it at the point to where, was it your son and your husband and everyone that got up on the roof to pop off shots, or who actually got up there to shoot at it?
Okay, there was my brother-in-law, my son, my husband, my nephew.
Okay. And I know when I talked to one of your sons the other day, Barton, I know he's completely terrified of this thing, and even recounting half the stories that went on there, I know he's completely terrified talking about it, which I understand. But I wanted to ask you, how did it get to the point, was this thing just coming around all the time and you feeling threatened to the point where everyone decided?
It must have been hanging around for a long time because, like I said, I heard them limbs a breaking, and that hunter seen it run between them trees. But the only time I seen it was when it was standing under that light.
Right. My question, though, is at the point to where everyone decides, hey, let's get up on the roof with guns and let's just pick this thing off. Had this been going on for a long time to where you guys felt really threatened by this thing coming around? To where you decided?
They only got up on the roof one time, but they knew it was coming around because you could see prints of him, and he had a terrible odor to him. You could smell him like something dead or something.
So this was sort of a last recourse. You know, they were fed up with this thing coming around and doing whatever it was doing, so they decided to shoot it.
Yeah, we tried to, but I don't think you'd kill them. I honest to God don't. They all had shotguns and sat up there, and they seen that thing run by that barn. They all opened fire, and it jumped right across that fence just like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, these things are very difficult to kill, especially with something like a shotgun. We had a former Special Forces sergeant on the show recently, and he talked about the Army Special Forces teams occasionally going out to kill one of these things, and it takes them no less than 12 men in a unit to do that, and a lot of firepower. So, very difficult to kill.
But why hasn't somebody killed one?
Well, according to him, the military has.
But how come the military is keeping it such a secret? That's what I don't understand, because there's millions of lives at stake with them things. Could be.
Well, that's a very good question. We don't have the answer to that just yet.
Well, you look into that and find out and then call me.
We sure will.
I would like to know why they're keeping it such a secret.
Yeah, Rosalie, I wanted to ask you, and I've seen video of your guys' general area. I know it was up on YouTube, and it looks very remote. I wanted to ask you, has any people come up missing in your area?
There's always girls missing around in here, young girls. And they just found one dead today, but she wasn't mutilated or nothing. But there's always kids missing, not here in Henderson, but in the general vicinity of it. And they generally don't find them. So I don't know, sometimes they find one dead, sometimes, but most of the time they don't find them. Because they're usually littler children, you know. It's a mess.
And Miss Rosalie, you don't... Or go ahead.
If I ever see one walk through this street here, I'll tell you one thing, there's going to be 4 doors in this house. I'm going whichever way he ain't.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Couldn't blame you there.
Well, you said you've seen one or two.
Right.
You know what they look like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're weird looking.
Yeah, they are weird
scary.
looking, that's for sure.
But anyway, I've enjoyed talking to you, honey. If I can help you anyway, well, give me a number.
Well, we sure appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rosalie.
Well, you're more than welcome, honey. And I'll talk at you later. If I think of anything else, I'll give you a buzz.
All right, Miss Rosalie. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, honey. Bye-bye.
It was interesting. I think that when all the men were shooting at the thing from the roof with shotguns, well, depending on what type of round they're using, and it doesn't, a shotgun.
You're going to miss, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Shotgun pellets don't go out very far. I mean, they start dispersing very quickly. So even if a few hit it, well, the chances of it doing any real damage are pretty much slim to none.
Yeah, she said that barn was almost a block away. So, I mean, it being a block away, if I fire a shotgun pellet right here, I guarantee maybe
one. Hit anything.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to hit anything.
And I think it was so long ago. Like I had printed off the story and was highlighting a bunch of stuff, and I think that she's just forgotten so much. It's been so long. I had a little list of, because in the story they listed like 200 chickens had been killed, 1 goat, 1 horse, and then the boys had found like 8 dogs that were in fact eviscerated. Like she was mentioning the pig and the pony was, but it was so long ago that maybe Barton will remember some of the story.
I think what's important to remember too probably is it depends on each person who was involved in their perspective, because not everybody was going to have the same, see and hear the same things going on. So maybe because of age or by choice, or she just wasn't involved in some of these events. And she could be that because some of that was so horrific, especially the animal killings, things like that, that maybe she, her mind has chosen to sort of block those out.
I know when I talked to Barton had talked about these chickens. I think he had said over 200 chickens were killed. A bunch of his dogs were killed. He said it pretty much slaughtered all their animals. And I know he's going to be coming on around the 1st to talk about his encounter. And I know it was so long ago for Miss Rosalie, but I know Barton had really gone into details about all these different animals being killed and the family feeling really threatened every time this thing came around. One of the things Barton said is that every time this thing came around, it was a very intimidating presence. It wasn't like peeking around a tree. It wasn't,
sort of right like the experience you and Woody had.
That's exactly how Barton described
demonstrating it. Right up to your face, basically.
And that's what Barton had said. This thing would come up right to the house, right up a few feet from the house, and just kind of stand there. And every time the little kids, one thing that was kind of crazy is when he was talking about the little kids being outside, he said that the creature was drawn to the little kids being outside. That would kind of draw the creature in.
Well, and certainly, if they're, I talk to people, of course, behind the scenes, long term with some of the law enforcement folks and things we've talked to before in the military and hunters and et cetera. And a lot of people talk about how when these things possibly, number one, if they're not from that area, let's say if they're, and I'll give you an example, and I told Wes about this before we get on the phone. There's a situation that's just starting with a lady and her, I believe it's her son, where this thing just all of a sudden they showed up in the back of their property. The animals have come up missing, and they think it's looking in the windows, and it's going on with the neighbors, and so these events are starting to ramp up. Because there was nothing there previously, my suggestion was that it's either a rogue or an individual either had challenged, the alpha male in the group and was expelled from the group, or it was an older alpha deposed by a younger, stronger one. So some of these animals, I think, occasionally will start going after, domestic animals and even kids if they can get them. Because they're going to be hard up for food, basically. And, we know cougars do that when they get old. That's one of the times they will attack humans is because, we're a little slower and it's easier for them to catch.
Easy pickings.
Exactly. So, that may be, what was going on or does happen in some of these circumstances where especially little kids, attract them in.
Can't wait to talk to Barton, because when he talked about this thing coming in all the time and being really attracted to the kids, it'd be nice to get his perspective on. I kind of, and it was hard to get that out of Rosalie, but I kind of think that's why they got on the roof and started popping off shots. You know, kind of created an ambush.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty extreme measure at that point.
Bless her heart, though. I mean, it seemed like maybe once some of us would ask a question, it would kind of jog her memory a little bit. But
Right.
That whole part with the burning the house down thing, when I read that, I was like, oh boy, I don't know if I should bring that up, but I'll give it a shot, you know?
Extreme, isn't it? I mean, if you're willing to burn your home and your family up rather than be caught by these things, that sort of gives you a window into the character of what was happening. There must have been some really violent behaviors by this thing to warrant that kind of thinking.
Is that what they were saying? Is that what he was saying? He was going to burn the house down?
Yeah, it says here he would rather burn them inside rather than losing one or more of them to the creature and trying to live with the loss. They should all die and go to heaven together. And all the children agreed with both parents that they should do this.
Wow.
Jesus.
That whatever this thing was doing over the time frame that it was there put them in the frame of mind where they felt that's what they needed to do. So those behaviors must have really, really been, horrible to deal with.
Yeah, I think she was being pretty conservative. I think it'll be really great to get Barton on the line, because it was going on for, it sounds like, about 11 months. But, I didn't want to, you never want to act like you're correcting someone on their own story. So from the story, it looks like about a year. So that would be a lot to deal with every day for a year. And thinking they're going to snatch your kids and stuff. That's awful.
I got an audio file for you guys to listen to. This is from Michigan, and I wanted to get your guys' input on this. So within the first 10 seconds, you'll hear this roar. But listen to the whole audio file. Tell me what you think, but within that first 10 seconds, listen for the roar.
That's similar to the roar we heard, I don't remember what year it was, like 2004 or 5 up on the Olympic Peninsula. There were a few of us up camping up there on the Quinault River. And after dinner, right at dusk, we decided to go for a walk up the road toward the ranger station and back. And we were just about, maybe 100 yards from the campground. And there was only like 7 campsites in the campground. And this big ridge that divided the two upper forks of the Quinault River. And something was just a couple hundred yards above us and let out a frickin' roar like that. And it was loud. We could hear people whispering everywhere. What was that? What was that? What was that? It was wild. I had my recorder in my pocket, but only screamed once.
You're like, why don't you do it one more time? That's scream. I've never really heard it. I pulled it out of my pocket.
I'm ready to hit the record button. The son of a gun never did it again. It was probably after giving me the signal, knowing that I was down there.
Right? He's like, I see what you have there.
It's like when Wes has talked about how loud, the roar they heard was, and they were closer. But this thing was just, it's probably the loudest one I've ever heard.
It looks like our second guest just called in, Will. This is James, everyone. And he had kind of a terrifying encounter. I'll let you take it away, Will, and interview James, our second guest for this evening.
Hi, James. How are you doing today?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Well, what I like to do before I would go into an account is to find out basically, prior to the incident you had, what did you know about the subject of Sasquatch?
Growing up, I was always told it's, somebody in a monkey suit.
Okay.
And then as I got older, started watching, like Wild America with Marty Stauffer and, some National Geographic. And, then, I've always been open-minded. And, I knew, well, maybe there's a possibility,
If I might ask, what part of the country did this happen in?
The Adirondacks in New York State.
And how long ago was it?
September, I believe, 94. That was beginning of archery season.
Okay. Walk us through the situation. Tell us what you were doing that day that led up to the events, and then take us through the account.
Prior to actually getting time into hunt, we started like a hunting club for the guys that I work with in the fire department and my dad, and we built a small cabin so, it will withstand, good weather. That being said, I remember on one of the shows, I forgot, Marty Stauffer or something, they said something about this really big bear in the area, and I remember them saying that hunters would look at the top of trees and see trees swaying, and that's how either bears are scratching or digging it for grubs or whatever. And I seen this actually happen. So, I started over slowly, down the trail, and it's thick, it's a lot of leaves on the ground already, and it's a lot of trees around in general. There's not too many open sites on trails. There's always something that's always going to get in your way. So I make my way in that direction, and I pretty much get to where it is, and I'm looking around, and I don't see no claw marks or anything up in the tree or droppings around the tree. And I go a little further, to the right and then to the left to see if maybe I had the wrong tree. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing. And so I looked around to see if there was any deer activity. There was a couple of rubs, closer to the ground on some birch. And then it started getting, dark up there. Once the sun starts going down, you got like 10 minutes and it's gone. I start heading back. So I figured I have maybe 20 minutes to get back to camp. So I'm walking, looking around. I hear, some movement here and there. So I figured maybe it's deer. And of course, field mice and rabbits always sound like there's a herd of elephants coming through the forest. So I'm looking down to see if I can see any more tracks on the way back. And all of a sudden, it's like I get to this one point, and I just happen to look up, and I freeze. And this dude, he was pretty big. I mean, I'm 6'3". Basically, I was standing nose to nipple with him.
Lord.
There was enough space where I couldn't touch him, but if he was to put out his hand and grab me, that could have been easily done. I would say if he were to put out his hand, right there, the joint of the elbow would be where my body's creased, and he would be able to wrap his arm around me. Basically, I panicked, and I yelled, and he let out some type of "Arr!" In all reality, I actually shit my pants.
That would do it. That would do it.
And I just froze there, my eyes closed, after because when he growled, it wasn't really a roar. It was just like a growl, like a dog or something would do to warn you.
Sure.
And that thing shook my insides.
What did you do after that? I mean, obviously you were probably paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, after I spoke to God for a good number of minutes, I didn't hear nothing, so I just opened my eyes and there's nothing there, and I'm trembling, and I just made a beeline back to the camp, and my dad's there. He goes, "What took you so long?" I said, "Well, you hear all that commotion?" He goes, "What is it, bears over there?" I said, "No." I said, "I'll let you know. Let me go change my pants." So, and he's like, no, it was probably just a bear stood up and, came out from behind a tree. I said, well, if it was, I said it was a pretty big bear. But I knew it wasn't a bear. I mean, you could see, I was that close. His eyes, I would say like a caramel color. Mm-hmm. His eyes. The white of his eyes wasn't really white, more like kind of yellowish. Nose, nothing too big, but a wide nose, but I wouldn't say flat. There was a nose, but it was just more wide, not as pointy as
We've had people describe it as like an Australian Aborigine nose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would probably hit it on the head, because even African American, I mean, I've worked with a few guys and I joke around with them. I say, I've seen something in the woods with a nose like yours, and they started laughing. That it wasn't, not even close. I was just joking with them.
Right.
And I always would go up there, ahead of time, because working for the fire department, I only worked 3 days, and I would have 4 and 5 days off. So I would go up there ahead of time, make sure there's water for the camp, because there's no running water or anything. Basically, if you wanted to get there, you had to be going there. It's not something that you would pass all the time.
Right.
And it's a pretty well-known spot. It's Canada Lake, which is a body of water across the road in the opposite direction from where the camp was. And we would be at the base of Cane Mountain, which is the mountain that this property sits on. We were leasing from Finch Crane and Company. They're a paper company. We would lease the property. We had about 100 acres that we'd lease.
You had a real underwear changing moment.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
I did. And I don't know if it was me that stunk or he stunk, because I really didn't smell him, and the wind was blowing
I didn't mean to laugh
my face. That's fine. I'm over it. I mean, it's been 20-something years.
Sure.
But,
we're going to have to send you one of the first T-shirts we make that say underwear changing moment.
Yeah, because I actually did. I really let loose. So it was an eye opener. And then from then on, I had the curiosity, and I really want to know what that was. And I know for a fact that wasn't nobody in a monkey suit. That wasn't a bear or nothing. That was a big dude. He had patches of skin through the hair on his face that you could see. That it's just so many things. And when he growled, the last thing I remember is when he growled, like opening his mouth, like clenching his teeth. And that's when I closed my eyes and shit myself.
Yeah, I can well imagine.
So,
good Lord.
Prior to all this, and now that I've seen a few shows, on TV about wood knocking and whoops and screeching and stuff like that, and we've heard that. And I thought it was just a pack of coyotes, because there's a lot of coyotes up there. So I really didn't know that they actually made noise, and have calls like that.
Right.
So now I'm as I sit back now and see what they show on TV, I'm starting to put, 2 with 3 and 4 with 8 and coming up with, one universal thing. And to me, it's very interesting. I feel I'm very lucky. I mean, I'm pretty sure if he was having a bad day, he could have just snapped me in half.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, because I stand 6'3" and about 302 pounds when I was in shape working for the fire department. Now that everything that was up on my chest and shoulders and everything fell to my belly since I'm retired. So.
Hey, James, I wanted to ask you, how did your dad respond? I mean, how does your family respond now when you recount the story?
Well, my dad, he would joke around and be a ball buster, but, he has said that he has seen things, but he didn't want to say anything. And I'm pretty sure he has, because we've heard, like limbs breaking and stuff like this, and these were all very mature trees, not no saplings and stuff where we were. And those howls, now even him now, he's the one that turned me on to that Finding Bigfoot, that the cartoon there, the joke, because if they really ever came face to face with one, I don't think they'd be fucking around like they are.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Well, James, I appreciate you sharing your encounter, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing the encounter.
Yeah, thanks for letting me vent and finally get, able to talk to somebody who actually fully understands. And from listening to the show, I know you guys all had, you know, a moment like mine, whether you admit you shit yourself or not. I did. So, but, you know, it's totally different when you speak with somebody who actually got that close, you know, and is in a situation like that. Then, oh, I've seen him run across the woods, or, you know, I've seen him, but he was 100 and something foot away. And,
yeah, it's not quite the same.
It's a big difference.
Like from listening to you, I know Will had, you know, two of them on him. You and Woody got surrounded. And I just happened to come by your show accidentally, but it's really interesting.
No, I appreciate that. Do you have time to hang on for about 3 minutes? And I was going to play an audio file.
Sure, no problem.
Of a vocalization. So this is in August of 2011. I was telling Will about this audio file before the show started. This is in central Michigan, and these people have Sasquatch out on their property. When you listen to the recording, you'll hear something off in the distance, and then you'll hear the people. And they start doing this mimic back and forth. The people make a sound, and the Sasquatch mimics the same sound that they have. Except for towards the end, it really ramps up, and you can tell there's more than one Sasquatch, and the vocalizations kind of become a little bit aggressive, in my opinion. But take a listen. Tell me what you guys think.
Sure.
Things start getting real there at the end.
Yeah.
What'd you
think? Definitely. I would have said, you know, at first I was thinking, well, you know, it's possible. I mean, there are birds and other animals that make kind of weird noises like that. But when it got to the screaming, that was a whole different train of thought for me at that time, because I knew that wasn't anything but very possibly Sasquatch doing that.
Right. It does sound like you're walking on a road and, you know, birds and squirrels chattering and whistling back and forth.
Right.
And then they start getting more progressive and higher, and you're like,
Yeah, it's very different after towards the end there.
You know, when I first heard it, I thought the same thing as you were saying, Will. It could be a person off in the distance just kind of mimicking what you hear is up close by the recorder. But towards the end, I've heard that scream before. That banshee scream.
Yeah, I have too, and that's nothing like anything else out there.
It'd even be hard for a person to mimic, a person to fake that.
It would be very difficult, I think.
Like I was saying, now that I've heard, these sounds and stuff, it was about 6 months prior to what I encountered in the Adirondack that we heard that coming from like up towards, because they have a fire tower and I guess a ranger emergency cabin up on top of Cane Mountain. From up there, which is such a hike, but yeah, it was about probably 5 or 6 months prior to what I encountered. There were screams like that going on for about 3 nights steady, and we just didn't know what it was. We figured maybe coyotes were killing something.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, James. Appreciate you sharing your encounter.
We sure do.
I appreciate you guys also. And like I said, we were playing email tag there for a while. So figured I'd get back to you.
Until next time, everyone, have a great night.